Good, oh no. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back once again to Blood Bowl Live and our Monday night roundup, our weekly show where we go through all of the week's games and see what's happened in this week of the ADBBL. Um, 6 games to go through this week, and in the interest of full disclosure, I don't have a huge idea about what's happened in any of them. I've been off for the week at Latitude Festival. You may be able to hear that in my voice. I've had very little sleep, so this is going to be fun. So let's see how we get on. Yeah, only 6 games to go through, so it might not be a long one this week, and we'll jump straight in. We won't dawdle, let's get straight to the games. And the first game that we are looking at is the Beautiful Bruisers versus Aardvarks and Halflings. So, anyone who isn't aware, unfortunately, our halfling coach had to pull out. So, in order to make sure that all the games went in, we're running a shop team of halflings with an identical roster to make sure that all of the teams in that group play the same number of games as everybody else, and don't get any. We didn't want to give out like free passes, like free wins and free SPP. We wanted to still give them the chance to play all their games and things like that. So that's who Aardvarks and Halflings are, and it's their first game against the Beautiful Bruisers, the Black Orc team, and this was a really entertaining game. It was a really fun game, and I think that was partly because both teams had kind of similar thoughts about chucking players and seeing how that would work out. Sam's Orcs had a not fantastic start to the season with a couple of losses, so was definitely looking to see what he could get from this game. And Halflings were, to be honest, just looking to have a bit of fun and seeing what they could get out of it as well. So looking at how the game started, lots of SPP, lots of inducement money to be spent by the Halflings, which went on Carla Von Kill and Cindy Piewhistle. I really like Carla as a star player. The Dauntless that she's got and the ability to double her strength rather than just sort of match it is so cool, and the block and the dodge on it as well. Really cool. Like when you can't quite afford Griff, it's really an asset to the Halfling team, and also Cindy as well for for a little bit of extra fun of some more throws as well. And if you look at tour play, it looks like not a lot happened in this game at all. To be honest, it looks like there were very few things that actually happened. Um, there was a lot of sort of blocking about. There was some knockouts. There wasn't a huge amount in that space. There was also quite a lot of turnovers in this game, so things did move very quickly. Um, and the Goblins sort of did get off to a good start. They were sort of slowly making their way forward, trying to move the ball around. Halflings were just sort of getting in the way, freeing the ball up quite often. The exchange of who was in possession was changing quite a lot in that first half, and the Goblins managed to just get the right blocks in the right places to get out to get that touchdown on turn seven in the first half. Cindy Pie was all sent off straight after that, and then Halflings do what Halflings can do and got a one-turn touchdown. The I think probably Sam's error on that one was putting the ball somewhere where it could be a touchback. The touchback obviously, made things a lot easier for the Halflings, not needing to pick it up. Handed the ball to the right player. Player was thrown down, and had to make the most of all of its movement, all of its rushes and dodges, because the Orcs positioned themselves in a way where you did have to do a lot of dodges to get through there. But all of the dice rolls came up. All of the dice rolls were what were needed, and a one-turn touchdown for the Halflings. Second half came, and Halflings were trying again for that kind of positioning in order to throw a player, and always had a player in a position to be thrown, and then eventually managed to get the ball to the right person to get that player thrown to then again make it 2-1. Um, Black Hawks didn't give up though, and had the opportunity. There were a lot of dodges involved. They had to clear a space. There were rushes involved, but managed to get on turn 16. A goblin freed up just enough ball possession. A couple of dodges, but not too many. Hand off and running down. Sam positioned really well to make sure that those opportunities were there. And managed to get that draw at the end. So for Sam, it was a draw. Rather, he'd lost the first couple of games this season. A draw, which will sort of hopefully, I guess, hope to be a bit of a springboard. Still very tight as to who could finish second in that group. For the Halflings, they're not going to progress. It's just for a bit of fun for them, and successfully getting a one-turn touchdown, throwing a few Halflings around the pitch. It was a great game. It was a really fun game. So well done to Sam. I'm not going to say well done to me. That feels weird. But we will move on to the next game, which is Sam again. So immediately afterwards, or the next morning, hoping to build on that success with the Halflings, or that sort of draw with the Halflings, Sam had his second game, and this one was always, to be fair, going to be tricky because Scott is on a bit of a roll with this Nurgle team. Let's be honest. He has done really well. He's looking pretty comfortable. Still, technically, I'll double check. Can he be matched at the top? I think he can. He can still technically finish third in his group. So he's qualified in all but points, which makes no sense whatsoever. But having a look at the way that this game went, the Orcs this time had that extra inducement money, chose to take Fungus and Bomber, so looking to have a few shenanigans there, see what Fungus can do with that ball and chain. Very sunny on the weather, to make things a little bit more difficult. Again, if you look at tour play, it looks like not a huge amount has gone on here. What I do know from speaking to the coaches on this game is Fungus moved around a ridiculous number of times in this game and hit no one, which is always very frustrating when you take a star player, especially, I guess, one of the Goblin ones. I suppose you could say they're sort of high risk, high reward, but when they don't sort of do what you've brought them in to do, it can always be a bit frustrating. Turn 5 touchdown for the Hot Spews there to take the lead in the first half, and Bombers immediately off the pitch. It looks like Fungus possibly remained not overly sure on that one. Then Hot Spews looked like in a bit more control in that half, getting some fouls, getting some casualties in on turn 7 to try and rack up those extra points there, taking out a highly skilled Goblin for luckily only this game, and another Goblin lineman to kind of reduce the numbers there. More fouls came from the Hot Spews and a second touchdown relatively late in that second half to increase the lead to 2-0. I think Scott is enjoying playing Nurgle this season, and all of those mutations that team is gaining as the season goes on are really making them quite an interesting team. It's a very chaotic team, but it really does seem to be working. Sam is unfortunately another loss there, but because when you have a group like this one, this is a very interesting group because you've got the Halflings who are just kind of there to cause trouble. You've got the Nurgle team that are right at the top there and are looking pretty much like they've got this in the bag, and that does mean that in a way games like this one aren't overly important for Sam. The important games are going to be the ones against the Skaven team, and then the one against the Halflings. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be more important. So if they're where the points can come, then there's still qualification out of that group. Well done to Scott. Another win. He likes a 2-0 win, and he'll be happy with that one as well. And we'll now move on to Kittens 4T versus the Khorne Asylum. And again, another game that we had a rematch of last season because these two were in the same group. They played each other once already this season, ended in a draw. This will be one that JD will be much happier with the result here. And this was a big result for JD because without this win, it probably looked like his chances to get out of this group were slim. This now gives him a much better platform to get out and makes the group a lot tighter. And actually, the number of points he's got with a game in hand, he's looking like he could be, even if he doesn't quite get that second spot, maybe get into that third place wild card. Inducements for the Goblins: Hack Phlegm, Nobbler, Ogre Firebelly, Bribes, and this game went exactly as we know that the games between these coaches go. This is how they do it. We kind of used to it from these two. Fouls from the Goblins, which very early on, Armor stat busts a lineman, a casualty, another foul, and it looks like Nick was having some great fun doing these shenanigans, but in the meanwhile, JD manages to get that touchdown midway through the first half in order to take the early lead. Noblar gets sent off shortly after that, and then it looks like a foul causes a Bloodseeker to die for the Khorne Asylum team, and JD loves killing players. I wonder whether JD minds too much when his players die. This one, however, is a relatively well-skilled up Bloodseeker, so maybe this will be one that he will miss a little bit. But it looks as though, even though the fouls kept coming, JD remained in control, manages to take a 2-0 lead into the second half, and then fouls himself, keeps going, fouls himself, gets a casualty, missed next game for the Goblin, gets another casualty, gets that revenge for that previous death and kills one of the Goblin linemen there, and then manages to get a third touchdown before the half is even halfway. Nick makes sure JD can't get that extra bonus point, gets a touchdown there on turn 13, and another foul for good luck. And I know that these two coaches know each other quite well. They've played each other a number of times. This looks like it was a great fun game. I hope both of them enjoyed it. JD will be so chuffed there. 17 SPP for the team. He's got his 3 points for the win. He's got a point for that 3 touchdowns. And really puts him back in contention to get out of this group. It's going to be very tight there. Sadly, this result does mean that Nick, coach of the Goblins, is our first mathematical elimination. He can't get out of this group now based on the way the results have gone. Well done to Nick, though. He's put up such a good fight. He's really, every time I see Nick play or see results from Nick, firstly, he's having so much fun playing, and secondly, it does, Nick who's really got into this Goblin team, and I think he does it well. And I can see him, if he continues to play these Goblins, if he can maybe redraft these Goblins for next season. I don't know whether you do redraft stunty teams normally. They're not normally teams I play, but Nick's improving as a player as he goes along, and I think having so much fun with this team. So hard luck to be our first elimination, but I know that he'll go on and keep enjoying playing as these Goblins. So well done to both coaches. Well done, JD. We'll look at the tables a bit later and see how that result has affected it, but that's definitely a good result of him and one that he will have very much wanted. Moving on to the Blitz Brigade versus the Ipswich Imperials. I feel like every time I see a game with Harrison coming up, because I know that Harrison's a good player. I know that I know he knows what he's doing, and I keep not wanting to write Harrison off, and he is in a group that is really tight. This group is tight, and he's now got 4 losses from 4, and I think he could probably still qualify. There's still 12 points there, and he can still get second. That's how tight this group is. So I'm refusing to write him off. I will continue to refuse to write him off. Kevin, on the other hand, it feels like Kevin is going to be our first team from this group to come out. Again, he's at the top of this group, and he's still not mathematically confirmed as qualifying. It does feel like he's got the momentum now, having had some good results. Looking at the way this game went, standard weather, journeyman, Helmut Wolf comes in for the Elven Union team, and we get a turn 5 touchdown for the Itchford Imperials to take the lead. The Elves get a casualty, get a little bit of revenge there, and kill a player on turn 5. It's only a lineman, so I'm sure that Kevin won't mind too much. Helmut also sent off in that particular section of the game, and a little bit of SPP gaining for the Elves as well, getting a completion for the Elven thrower on turn 8, and then again at the start of the next half on turn 9. Then Kevin retains a bit, as far as we can see on tour play, it looks like Kevin retains a bit more control here. Casualty comes in, badly hurting a catcher. Casualty comes in, miss next game alignment, and foul, another casualty to movement stat bust alignment. Which will be a miss next game as well. Continues to foul, gets sent off, and actually secures the game with a touchdown on turn 16 in order to take home the win there. Really well done to Kevin. He's really sort of grown into this Imperials team, and I think he's really found a good way to play them. I think a lot of human teams can be a bit tricky, and he's really sort of got into a bit of a groove here, and I'm pretty confident that he's going to be one of the teams out of this group. Again, I think this could be a group where we get 3 qualifiers. I don't know, so I think Kevin is certainly going to be one of the top 2 here, so really well done. And Harrison, if you are watching this, Harrison, later on or afterwards, I am going to continue to go out there and say you can turn this around. There's still 12 points there for you, and yeah, I mean, it would be if you got 12 points and you got out of this group, it will be headline turnaround. It will be fantastic. So still rooting for you, but well done to both coaches. I really like watching this group. It is really tight and it's great fun to look at. And the second game we've got here in this group is the Evolutionaries versus the Scale Marys, and this again, the Scale Marys are starting to, after maybe a slow start, starting to build a little bit of momentum here, and the Evolutionaries as well have had some good results this season. By no means does this result mean that they're out either. This group is that tight, and it could still go either way. But the Lizards here, getting a good result, taking 12 SPP away from the game. Having a look at how this one went, we had some normal weather. We didn't have as many inducements here. Teams were a little bit closer. Just a part-time coach there. And I'd be really interested, actually, if anyone has thoughts on fouling with skinks, because I very rarely used to foul with my skinks when I was a Lizards coach. I never really did it. I guess I was too terrified that if I were to lose them, my game fell apart a bit because of the poor agility on the Sauruses. But Kevin, David's got, David fouls quite a lot, especially with Billy. I maybe need to check whether Billy has any kind of skill that I am sort of idly ignoring, I guess, whether he's got a dirty player or anything like that. I mean, having a quick look. He does have sneaky git. Maybe that is why he is fouling a little bit more. But manages to get that touchdown in the first half, going into the break with a lead there. And then, in order to help him secure that, starts to get some casualties in the second. Badly hurts the lineman there, and the Elves respond. The Blitzer missing next game, a skink as well. So trading casualty blows there. The speed of the Elves means you can score very quickly, but the speed of those skinks means you can as well. And it looks like sort of turn 12 we get a second touchdown for the Scale Marys. Looks like sealing the deal there. A bit of SPP for the thrower there. Penta, that thrower, is doing a lot of successful completions this season, so I imagine the SPP that they are getting is starting to rack up a little bit. Having spoken to the coach of the Evolutionaries, I believe there were a lot of ones rolled in this game. An awful lot of ones, maybe all the ones this season came in one game. And again, well done to the Scale Marys, that they're starting to look a bit more comfortable. The Evolutionaries have a few games in hand here. So when we look at the table later, they look a little bit lower in the table, but it's far from over in this group. And I keep saying it. I think one of our third place wildcards will come from this group because it is very, very tight. Ben, the Skink Lineman, gets MVP there, which is great for already had some skills there, managed to skill up more, and also the thrower getting SPP. The positional's getting some good SPP there, which is really, really good. So well done to both coaches there. Well done to David. Hard luck to Phil, but your season is far from over, so there are some big games for you to come, so keep at it. Last game of this week is the Boneyard Blitzers versus the Numpties, the Dwarven team. And Boneyard Blitzers coming off the back of their first win ever, it seems, and first touchdown. Really throwing a spanner in this group. This group was one that looked a bit like a group of death. You had some really, really good teams here, and I think I may have said it before that Tom with the Boneyard Blitzers probably on paper, based on kind of experience and things like that, looked like he would maybe be the fall guy in this group. But I did say before that I think he could, if he can get some key results, if he didn't go through himself, he could be someone that decides who does go through. And he showed that with a win against the Elven Union team, the Bleakshore Ravens, in this group. Looking here, though, it looks like the Numpties, the Dwarfs, managed to build on a better result that they also got against the Elves here. Bomber Dribble Snot and a legendary lineman, mercenary, coming in for the Orc team, and immediately that's a huge turn one kind of psychological blow there for that legendary lineman on turn one to get a casualty and kill a troll slayer for the dwarfs. That's a great blow, and I reckon Tom would have been so really boosted by that. Starts fouling in that first half. Foul. Gets a casualty, a niggling injury as a dwarf blocker lineman on turn 10. Bomber gets stat busted. -1 to the armor value, taking him out for the rest of the game. And there's not a lot here, but you get the sense of, and feel free for either of the coaches to correct me, you get the sense that there was a bit of a grind here, and the Dwarves managed to run down the clock to turn 15 to get that touchdown. If you look at this, it looks like all of the kind of key blows were coming from the blitzers, but the dwarves, they're not pacey, but they're stocky and they can move their way down the field, and it looks like that's maybe what they've done here as well. Tackle on those dwarves. Tackle, I love it when I've got it, and I hate it when I face it, and I imagine that may have hampered some of the goblins as the game went on. So, but a win. There's me saying hampers the goblins, but of course this is a orc team. This isn't a black orc team. This is an out and out orc team. There are no goblins. Chris, you're an idiot. You're tired. It's all right. We're nearly at the end, guys. We'll get there. Well done, anyway. Well done to Elliot. 1-0 win there for him, bringing him a little bit closer in that group to James at the top. And with the other results going the ways that they have been, he's starting to look like he's putting together a bit of form to get out of this group. So well done. That's our 6 games. So let's have a little look at the table here. And as we know, Riotous Rams are already confirmed as qualified, but look how tight that second place is. The Amazons have a game in hand. They've got to play both JD and they've got to play Nick. Nick, unfortunately, now mathematically out. He cannot qualify from that group. JD will be hoping, though, that Nick can do him a favour and maybe slim down those Amazons, maybe give them a bit of a beating to give him a better chance against them. Chris with the Amazons got a huge result against JD earlier in the season, so it will be really key to see how that one goes, to see who gets out of there, but nice and tight. Looking at the next group, not a lot of change there, no games in that group played, so we've still got the Greystone Gladiators at the top, Iceborne Raiders close on their tails with a game in hand as well. Over in Shanghai, that victory for the Hot Spews pretty much guarantees them a place. There is still game. They can still be toppled. They not guarantee, but it's looking. If you don't get out of a group with 5 wins from 5 games, some miracle has happened. So looks pretty good there, but still not a confirmation there. And as I said before, Sam may only be on 1 point. The Rats may have a game in hand, but if he gets a good result against those Rats, that can all turn around, and the Halflings are there to cause some trouble as well on the way. Ipswich Imperials looking very good at the top there, 15 points. Scale Mary's up to second with 12 points as well. Evolutionaries 5 points, but they've got 1 game in hand over the Scale Marys and 2 games in hand against the Imperials. 6 points available in every game, 2 6-point games, and suddenly he's above Kevin, so that group is far from over. Harrison looking like he can only get 12 points now in this group, but second place has 12 points. If David loses 2 games in a row there, and the Evolutionaries don't get good results, Harrison could squeeze out of there. So come on, Harrison, I'm rooting for you, because you're an underdog, and I'm sorry that that's the case, but I'd love to see you turn it around and get some good results. No games in Reyes. Robert's still sitting terrifyingly at the top there with 16 points. Second place there still to be decided. Heldman, Angry Advarkian still sitting at the top. Numpty's in second there, looking a bit more comfortable, but 3 games played all across the board there. Still 18 points available for Mitch. Don't rule him out with 3 losses. I think he could still get some good results there, because he knows what he's doing with those elves and has got quite unlucky so far. And Rayner, no games in that group this week either, so Reptile Dysfunction is still sitting comfortable at the top. Graveyard Brawlers in second. No points for Flumps or World's Edge Berserkers, but many games left to play there, so we'll see how that progresses as well. And looking over at the honours as well to see what change we've got there. Robert still sitting up there, top of the most valued. David sitting at the top of most fames, most experience. Robert, best performance. Robert is quite frankly terrifying. Rich has currently got the most touchdowns, having played 6 games. My gut says he's going to be toppled from there, because you've got some high scoring teams with less games, Robert and myself included. Robert still yet to concede, and I think that could continue, so really good there from him as well. Casualties, Rich is at the top there, but JD is close on his tail. Injuries, that's not the one you want, but Nick's looking comfortable there, as is Harrison, looking quite high at the top of that one. Most deadly, JD will love to take that one home if he takes nothing else this season. He's currently up there with 4. Dirty player, we're look at the number. I mean, there's such a gulf at the top of that one with the Goblin team, the Blackhawks, and then the Norse. Robert is gunning for that, but Nick's going to give him a run for his money. The only thing that will happen, Nick, is Robert's going to get more games in, because he's getting out of that group, so we'll see how that goes. Flumps with the most sense off so far. Completions is looking very good for Justin and his Greystone Gladiators at the moment. But lots of teams are looking to take that crown. Lots of teams want that this season, so we'll see how that progresses. 2 more interceptions than we had last season, with 3 interceptions. Pretty level there. Stunty, Nick is hoping to claim that, but a good draw for Aardvarks and Halflings puts them in the running there. The Hot Spews, an amazing run of form they're on. The worst form, we won't cover it. You don't really want that one, and I'm sorry guys that you're in that position. And that's it. That's it for this week. I got through it. We're under half an hour. We've covered all the games, and I've just about still got a voice. So I guess that's probably the best we can hope for. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to anyone who is watching this on YouTube afterwards. Hopefully we'll have a good few games in this week. Hopefully we'll get some more streams this week as well. No stream last week, but if you missed it, you can watch last season's final over on the YouTube channel as well. We made sure we gave you something to watch. But have a good week, everyone. Good luck with all your games. May Nuffle be forever on your side. Unless you're playing me, then fingers crossed that won't happen. And we will catch you all next week for another roundup.